My husband tapped his glass and said, "Choosing her was the worst mistake of my entire life." Can you imagine pouring your heart and soul into a marriage, only to overhear your husband tell his own mother that marrying you was the biggest mistake of his life? Yeah, that happened to me. I was standing there, a bottle of wine in my hand, and my world just shattered. It was Constance, my mother-in-law. She was a piece of work, always critical, never happy. I'd spent 3 grueling hours in the kitchen, cooking her favorite dishes, just trying to get a flicker of approval. Neil, my husband, and she were at the dining table, and I'd stepped out for more wine. That's when I heard it. Constance asked Neil if he was truly happy. I paused, wine bottle in hand, needing to hear his answer. We'd been together 7 years. He always said he was happy. He'd whisper, "I love you," every morning and every night. He said all the right things, but when his mother asked, there was a different laugh. A laugh that cut right through me. Then he said it, clear as day. Marrying her was the biggest mistake of my life. It was delivered so casually, so matter-of-factly, like it was a truth he'd known forever. Constance made this sympathetic little noise, confirming it. She said she tried to warn him that I was too plain, too boring, too career-focused, instead of taking care of her son properly. Neil? He agreed with all of it. He complained I worked too much, didn't cook enough, wasn't fun anymore. He said he only stayed because leaving would be expensive and complicated, and he didn't want to deal with it. Constance, ever the instigator, asked, "Waiting for what?" And Neil, my husband, the man I swore vows to, said he was waiting for something better to come along. I just stood there, frozen. My husband was describing our marriage as a waiting room, a place he was stuck until a better option showed up. The world went silent around me, but I walked back into that dining room. I smiled. I poured Constance more wine. I asked if anyone wanted dessert. I acted like nothing was wrong. My heart was pounding, my hand shaking slightly, but I kept my composure. I needed time to think, to plan. That night, Neil kissed my forehead, said dinner was nice, said his mother really enjoyed herself. He even suggested we have her over more often. I just nodded. "Sounds lovely," I said. I didn't sleep a wink. I lay there next to him, replaying his words, every single one, over and over. 7 years. 7 years I'd given him. I remembered supporting him for 11 months when he lost his job, paying every single bill without a single complaint. I remembered moving across the country for his career, leaving my friends, my family, my entire life behind to follow him to a city where I knew no one. I remembered putting off having kids because he wasn't ready. Year after year, maybe next year. Now I was 36 and he was just waiting for something better. The next morning I started. Small changes at first. I stopped doing his laundry. When he asked where his clean shirts were, I just said, "Oh, I thought you were handling your own clothes now." He looked utterly bewildered, but he did it. First time in 7 years. Then the house cleaning. Constance, of course, noticed the dust. "You're letting things go," she said, with that condescending tone. I just smiled, sweet as pie. Neil and I are sharing household duties now. Oh, the look on his face. Pure betrayal. He hadn't lifted a finger, ever. Then came the big one. A job offer. A great job offer. Double my salary, a leadership position, a relocation package. It was across the country, back to where my friends and family lived. I told Neil over dinner. Casually. He laughed like it was a joke. "We can't move again. My job is here. My mother is here. You need to turn it down." But I wasn't asking for permission. "I'm not asking," I told him. "I'm telling you. I'm taking the job. You can come with me, or you can stay." His face, it transformed, the realization hitting him. He started yelling. "What's gotten into you? Why are you being so selfish? What happened to the woman I married?" I looked him dead in the eye. "The woman you married?" I said, my voice steady. "She's been waiting for something better, too." 6 weeks later, I was gone. Neil didn't come with me. "I can't leave my mother," he whined. "I can't start over. You're abandoning me." "You abandoned me years ago, Neil," I shot back. "I just didn't know it until I heard you say it out loud." The divorce was surprisingly easy. He always insisted on keeping our finances separate. "Smarter that way," he said. And he was right. It made dividing everything incredibly simple. He kept the house, and the mortgage he couldn't afford alone. I kept my savings and the retirement fund I'd built while supporting him. 3 months after I moved, my phone rang. It was Neil. His voice was smaller, different. He missed me, he said. He'd made a mistake, he said. Could we work things out? I held the phone away from my ear for a second, just staring at it. Did he actually believe this would work? I put it back to my ear. The woman you married is gone, Neil, I told him. That's what you wanted, isn't it? Something better. I hung up before he could launch into his usual guilt trip, before he could call me mean or unfair or whatever victim card word he'd choose. I blocked his number right then and there. 2 weeks later, my boss called me into her office. My stomach dropped. I immediately thought I was in trouble. That was 7 years of conditioning right there. But she smiled, said the project I led had blown everyone away. Corporate wanted me to present it at a regional conference. They were impressed with my work. I sat there stunned. Someone valued what I did. My work wasn't just an inconvenience. I was good at my job. People noticed. I thanked her, my voice thick with emotion, and walked back to my desk feeling lighter than I had in years. I met Sarah, my college roommate, for coffee that weekend. We hadn't seen each other in almost 8 years, but it was like no time had passed. We laughed about old times. She looked at me over her latte. You're different, she said. Lighter. More like the old you before you got married. She was right. I hadn't realized how much weight I'd been carrying until it was gone. 5 months later, Neil called again. New number, of course. He couldn't afford the mortgage, he said. Would I help him for just a few months? I reminded him that he specifically wanted the house in the divorce, so I'd have no claim. Those were his words. He started to argue, so I hung up, blocked that number, and every other way he could reach me. Email, social media, everything. Done. Then, a Tuesday morning, the HR director stopped by my desk. They wanted me to lead a major client pitch. Millions on the line. I said yes. But that night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about presenting, about all those people. During the practice run, my hands started shaking, just like they used to when Constance would watch me cook, pointing out every single flaw. I realized Neil's voice was still in my head, still whispering that I wasn't good enough. I got through it, barely. The actual pitch was a week later. I wanted to call in sick, to run, but I showed up, and I did it. My voice only shook once. We won the contract. My team took me out to celebrate. The senior VP came by our table, thanked me personally, said I did an excellent job. I sat there, eating pasta, drinking wine, and it felt strange. Good, but strange. Like maybe I was capable. Constance somehow got my work number, called me a Wednesday afternoon. I didn't recognize it, so I answered. Immediately, she launched into a tirade, abandoning her son. Selfish. Cruel. What kind of person walks away from their responsibilities? I let her talk for about 30 seconds. Then I cut her off. Constance, I said, my voice calm but firm. Your son is a grown man. He made his choices. I am not responsible for fixing his problems anymore. She started yelling, so I hung up. Called security. Blocked her number from getting through again. Sarah introduced me to her friends that weekend. We went to a wine tasting. I actually enjoyed myself. No worrying about getting home. No checking my phone for Neil's demands. One of Sarah's friends divorced herself, said it took time, but she eventually stopped feeling guilty for choosing herself. That gave me so much hope. Then another blow. My divorce attorney called. Neil was contesting my retirement fund, claiming he deserved half because I'd built it during the marriage. My blood pressure spiked. Of course he did. He wanted money he didn't earn, just like he wanted a wife to fund his life. My attorney said we could fight it, but it would be costly, time-consuming. From a practical standpoint, a settlement made sense. I wanted to scream. It wasn't fair. 7 years, 11 months of bills, moving across the country, all that and now more. But I was tired, so tired of fighting. I told her to accept the deal. I just wanted it over. I signed the papers. 6 months of mortgage payments for a house I would never live in again. It was a bitter pill. Over $100,000 I'd spent supporting a man who called me his biggest mistake. 2 months later, my boss called me into her office again. That same look on her face. My stomach dropped. She opened a folder and smiled. The company is promoting you, she said. Senior director. Your own team. A 40% raise. I just sat there, stunned. She asked if I was okay. Surprised, I managed. You shouldn't be, she said. You earned it. Your work has been outstanding. I walked out of her office in a daze. I pulled up my bank account, did the math. With the new salary, I was making more than Neil and I ever made combined. Just me. Without anyone telling me I wasn't focused enough, or that I worked too much, or that I didn't cook enough. I sat there in my cubicle, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Pride. Real, genuine pride in myself. They moved me to a new office. With a window. A real window, overlooking the city skyline. I stood there, looking out, and thought about the woman I used to be. The woman who cooked for 3 hours to please a man who was just waiting for something better. She felt so far away now. My new team started. 5 people reporting directly to me. My voice only shook once during my first meeting. One of them stayed after, asking smart questions. He listened, took notes, thanked me for my time. Nobody had thanked me for my time in a very long time. The professional conference arrived. I walked into the convention center in a brand new suit, my badge proudly proclaiming Senior Director under my name. I sat down for the first session. Someone sat next to me. My heart stopped. Monica, an old co-worker of Neil's. We'd met at a few holiday parties. She recognized me, said my name with this awkward tone. I tried to ignore her, but during a break, she leaned over. I heard about the divorce, she whispered. Everyone at the old office did. My face burned. Everyone. I asked. She looked uncomfortable. Neil used to complain about you constantly. In the break room. How you worked too much, weren't fun. Said you were boring. Too focused on your career to take care of him. She said nobody was surprised we split. I just nodded. I didn't know what to say. She clearly realized she'd put her foot in it. The session restarted, but I heard nothing. I just pictured Neil in that break room, making me the villain while I was home paying his bills, cooking his dinner, trying desperately to be enough. I left the conference early, went back to my hotel room, ordered room service. I hated that Monica's pitying look. I hated that Neil had made people see me that way. And I hated that, even now, his words still hurt. But then something clicked. Monica had called me by my old married name, but my conference badge had my maiden name, the name I took back after the divorce. She didn't even notice. To her, I was still Neil's wife, the woman he complained about. But that woman didn't exist anymore. I was someone new, a senior director, with a window office, a life that had nothing to do with him, his mother, or his pathetic opinions. 3 weeks later, I woke up with a sharp chest pain. My left arm felt heavy. I thought heart attack. Grabbed my phone, called an ambulance. The pain was excruciating. At the ER, hooked up to machines, I thought, this is it. I'm dying alone at 37. An hour later, the doctor came back. Your heart is fine, he said. All tests normal. You had a severe panic attack brought on by stress. I started crying. He looked concerned. Asked if I'd been under a lot of pressure. I mean, where do I even begin? Left my husband, new job, moved cross-country, got promoted, paid for a house I didn't live in. Heard my ex talk trash about me. He prescribed anxiety meds. Told me I needed to manage my stress. I went home at 4 a.m., clutching that prescription. And it hit me. I'd left Neil. I'd moved away. I'd started over. But I was still letting the fear, the anxiety, the criticism from those years control me. I was still carrying all of it. I had changed my location, but not what was happening inside my head. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but I did. It was a text. Constance is sick. She's asking for you. Please call her. My stomach churned. I checked the number. Not Neil's usual one. A new one. He was trying to manipulate me. Again, using his mother. That familiar guilt started to creep in. Asterisk Constance is sick. What kind of person doesn't call? Asterisk, but then I stopped myself. I remembered Constance at my dining room table, drinking my wine, agreeing with Neil that I was plain and boring. I remembered her calling my office, yelling about me abandoning her son. Constance hated me. She always had. This wasn't her asking for me. This was Neil, trying to pull me back into their toxic drama. I deleted the message, blocked the new number. Their problems weren't mine anymore. A week later, I started having lunch with Jason, one of my new team members. Smart guy. Easy to talk to. We'd go to the cafe down the street. He told me about his divorce, how hard it was, how he spent a year just trying to find himself again. I told him about Neil. Not everything, just the basics. He listened, really listened, asked questions that showed he cared. After 3 months of these lunches, he asked me to dinner. Not a work dinner. An actual dinner. Panic. I blurted out no. Too quickly. He looked surprised. I tried to explain. I'm not ready. The idea of trusting someone again, it scares me. He nodded. I understand, he said. The offer stands whenever you're ready. No pressure. We went back to normal lunches, but something had shifted. I kept thinking about that dinner invitation. How easy it would be to say yes. How terrifying it would be to try again. Was I even capable of letting someone get close? Neil would have sulked for days if I'd said no. Made me feel selfish, cold. Jason just smiled, changed the subject. But that made me realize something important. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to try. I was just too scared. 2 years ago, I was standing in that hallway, wine bottle in hand, listening to my husband call me his biggest mistake. That woman was hurt, angry, scared. She thought her life was falling apart. She thought she'd wasted 7 years on someone who never truly wanted her. But she was also brave. Brave enough to walk away. Brave enough to pack her bags, move across the country, and start completely over. She chose herself when it would have been so much easier to stay. I'm so proud of her for that. Because that woman, that night, she saved me. Jason asked me to dinner again, weeks later. We were leaving the office, and he just turned to me in the parking lot. Offer still stands if you're interested, he said, with that same patient, kind smile. No pressure. I looked at him. He saw me. Not a mistake. Not a placeholder. Not someone who needed to try harder. He saw someone worth knowing. I said yes. He smiled. We made plans for tomorrow night. My life isn't perfect now. I still have moments of doubt. I still hear Neil's voice sometimes, whispering that I'm not good enough. But this life? It's mine. I built it on my terms. I chose what I wanted, instead of accepting what someone else decided I deserved. Have you ever had that moment? That one conversation or incident that just flipped a switch for you, and you knew you had to change everything? Tell me what you think. I really want to hear your stories in the comments.